Hello Year 7, it's Miss Redmond here with your third lesson in the cells topic. This is all about specialised cells. Please pause the video now and go and get a pen and a piece of paper if you haven't already got one, so that you can make notes and do the little tasks as we go through. At the bottom of the slide, you've got the learning objectives for this lesson. Feel free to write those down. And you've also got some DNA questions, which are: what jobs might use knowledge of cells? And do you know anyone who has one of these jobs? So pause the video now and write down your ideas for those. Here's a little task to get you thinking about specializations. So think about the chair that you're sitting on. What features make it good at doing its job? And can you think of any other object, or maybe a plant, animal or person, and how they're adapted to doing their job? So pause the video now and write down your ideas. Okay, there's lots of possible correct answers to this question, but just looking at this chair on the slide, it's really comfy, so you can sit in there for a long time and you'll be comfortable. It's got legs to hold it up off the ground at the correct height for a person. It's got a back so you can lean back on it. It's got features for doing its job, so it is specialised for doing its job. And looking at the other photo on the other side, we've got Serena Williams there, and she is got loads of really good features for doing her job as a tennis player. She's really strong, so she can hit the ball really hard and fast. She's quick around the court, so she can get to the ball wherever it is. She's got mental toughness, so whatever's happening in the match, she stays focused, and that has helped her to be the #1 tennis player in the world for I don't even know how many years. So maybe you can think of other objects, plants, animals or people, and how they're adapted to doing their job. Write down your ideas, and if you want to check them, send them to your science teacher. Here's an extension. How does this structure help the cell to function? I'm just going to delete that slide. All right, so the previous task was getting you to think about how things can be specialised to their function, and this is our first example of a specialised cell. It's a nerve cell. So the job of nerve cells are to carry impulses around the body, or carry electrical signals around your body. So your brain is connected to all the different parts of your body via nerve cells, and they carry the signals to tell your body what to do, and the parts of your body also send signals back to your brain to tell it what's going on. So nerve cells are very long and thin. That helps them to carry the impulses around the body, and they have lots of connections at each end, and that allows them to be connected to other nerve cells and to muscles. So all of those features help the nerve cell to be specialised to doing its job. Red blood cells, their job is to carry oxygen around the body. So red blood cells travel around in your blood through your veins and arteries, and they carry oxygen around the body. They contain a chemical called hemoglobin, and that joins to oxygen in order to keep the oxygen in the cell so that it can be carried around. So red blood cells are an example of a cell that doesn't have a nucleus, which is really unusual, as I mentioned in the previous lesson about plant and animal cells. And the reason for that is it creates more space for hemoglobin. So those red blood cells have really maximised the space for hemoglobin, and that helps them to carry more oxygen. They've got what's called a biconcave shape, which gives them a very large surface area. So you might see that described as a disc-like shape, which is fine, but it does have a specific name, which is biconcave, which is a bit like the shape of a refresher sweetie. So you can see from the diagram that it is a disc, but it's squashed in the middle. So you can think of it like a refresher, or you could think of it like a donut or a bagel with the middle part slightly filled in. All right, here's a human sperm cell, and its job is to swim to the egg and fertilize the egg. So it's got a tail to help it swim, it's streamlined to swim efficiently, and it's got lots of mitochondria to provide energy for swimming. So again, I mentioned mitochondria in the previous lesson. They provide energy for cells, and so cells which require a lot of energy, which obviously swimming requires a lot of energy, need a lot more mitochondria. Here's a human egg cell. Its job is to become an embryo after fertilization. This diagram is a bit more detailed than the ones you'll usually see. So it's got these cells around the outside, which are called the corona radiata, and they help to protect the egg cell, and they help the sperm to be able to find the egg cell. And the root of the word corona is the same as the root of the word for the coronavirus, which is the Latin word corona, which means crown. Okay, so the human egg cell has lots of cytoplasm with lots of nutrients in it, and that provides nutrition for the growing embryo. And another thing to note is that the human egg cell is much, much larger than the human sperm cell. The egg cell also has a jelly layer which protects it and attracts the sperm. So we have this kind of idea that the egg cell is fairly passive in fertilization. Well, obviously you need both an egg and a sperm cell to have fertilization, and then an embryo, and then a baby ultimately. But actually it's the egg cell which does most of the work, because it pumps out hormones to try and tell the sperm cell where it is, and when the sperm arrive, it actually breaks down part of its cell membrane to allow one sperm and only one sperm to enter and fertilize it. And the sperm cell, the head of the sperm goes in, and then the tail is discarded and floats away, and that's the end of the job of the sperm cell. And then the egg cell, its job is to divide and divide and divide, and eventually ultimately become a human person. So if you're interested in any of that, you've got a YouTube link down here, and that is to a video of Professor Alice Roberts explaining embryology. So during lockdown she made some videos about embryology. They're really fantastic. She goes into a lot of detail, but it's well worth a watch. Okay, here's a leaf cell. So this is our first specialized plant cell. The job of the leaves is to do photosynthesis. So leaf cells have lots and lots of chloroplasts in order to do photosynthesis, and they have a long, thin shape to give them a large surface area for absorbing sunlight, and to allow them to pack closely together, so you can get lots and lots of leaf cells within a single leaf, so you can really maximize the amount of photosynthesis that you're doing. And root hair cells are also plant cells. The root hair's job is to absorb water from the soil, and then it gets transferred up to the rest of the plant. So it's a really, really crucial job, absorbing water. And to do that, they have a thin cell wall. So remember, the cell wall is the outer layer of the plant cell, and it provides rigidity, usually. In the root hair cell, they've made it very, very thin so that it's easier for water to pass through. They've also got this specific shape to provide a large surface area for water to pass through, so we're getting the maximum possible amount of water passing through. And they don't have any chloroplasts because there's no light underground. It requires energy for the cell to make chloroplasts, so it's really an advantage if they're not going to use chloroplasts to not have any, because it saves the cell a lot of energy. Okay, here's your summary. Cells are adapted or specialized for their function or job. Specialized animal cells are red blood cells, which carry oxygen around the body, nerve cells, which carry signals around the body, sperm cells, which swim to the egg and fertilize it, egg cells, which become the embryo and ultimately the baby following fertilization. And specialized plant cells are leaf cells, which do photosynthesis, and root hair cells, which absorb water. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you next time.